it's okay to even internally grapple with the idea of how badly would I feel profiting off of this, or conversely, how much better would I feel if I stopped profiting off of this?
Come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers. And now, here are Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
Dal, I had a very specific way I was going to start this episode of Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast on the Net Channel Podcast Network here in Chicago. I feel weird doing that so early in it because, I mean, I like when you do it with me.
Sure. I'm getting it down.
But because
I like to think
JVO just said it.
I like to think a lot of people who listen to this are also doing it along.
I mean, like, I know that people do it along with Colt Cabana's Art of Wrestling.
You do it. You do it in this podcast.
And I liked that he had a thing that he said every week, but he blows through it like, this is I can't remember what he says, but a journal, but he goes really fast.
Sure.
And
I thought... He's been saying it probably a few hundred times.
Oh, yeah, sure. Even though we started our podcast earlier, we caught up a little bit because he took some time off and did a lot of repeats. But anyway, I always thought that, like, well, we need something like that, but inadvertently one just developed, but ours is very brief. And also not the way I plan on starting this podcast.
Uh-oh.
Which is about running a store about comics retail in Chicago on the Yak Channel Podcast Network here in Chicago. I keep looking at you to jump in, but you're not looking.
I already did this.
All
I'm
right.
not saying it
That's
twice.
fine. That's fine. So, this is the last second change to the start of the podcast. I didn't get a chance to read it yet, but right before we started recording, I got an email from the health insurance marketplace.
Great.
Did you get one?
I got one recently, and it was a thing notifying me of like, hey, you did signups and stuff. And then I read the PDF, and it was basically like, hey, signups open on November 1st, and make sure all of your stuff is in order before that happens. And I looked over their checklist, and I'm like, none of this applies to me.
Okay. Well, because it said check and see if you can, something like that. So I was wondering, because I think we have the same plan.
Well, one of the things is you'll get a letter from your health insurance provider letting you know if your plan will exist next year.
Which,
so,
I mean,
I can't
so
even
far
do
every
anything.
year it's not existed
Right.
for me.
But that means I can't do anything until
Okay.
they send me that letter. And
Well,
all the other stuff is about your tax situation. Like, if you got these payments, or if you haven't input this information, do all of that, because that's going to affect what you qualify for and how you pay for it. And it's like, again, none of this applies to me. But thank you for sending an email that makes it seem super urgent that I address this matter.
Well, I'm glad I asked you rather than looking at it, because I do hate that everything that they direct you to is a PDF.
Yep.
I don't want to download it. I just want to know what you're telling me.
Yep.
And it's not as if the PDF is exclusive to each person. It's the same information.
Exact same information probably everybody in the marketplace is getting over a 4 or 5 day period.
Yeah, and they're all called the same thing. So when you get each of these attachments each year, you go to open it up. If you don't delete your download folder, it's just document parentheses 8
Right.
or whatever, because they don't change their names.
Nope.
It's annoying, and I'm sure we'll talk more about health insurance later in the year when we find out we both had our plans canceled again and have to go back to Mike Matowski
Sounds right.
to figure out the rest of it. So that was the last second add-in for the opener to this podcast. What'd you think?
Good, real good.
Oh, thanks. Guys in the store comes up complaining about the price of comics, buying The Return of Wolverine, vividly complaining that it's $5, that it's a $4.99 book. Like, comics cost too much. I don't understand it. I don't know why they're this expensive. It should be cheaper. They should all be cheaper. I don't like it. To which I said to him, well, you don't need to buy 2 copies. Because he was buying 2 copies.
It's a very weird argument for someone to have. These things I'm buying too many of cost too much. I'm sorry?
Yeah, it seemed like there was a really obvious way to, like, cut that price in half.
Yeah, I know a way to make The Return of Wolverine only cost $4.99 instead of $9.98.
It's ridiculous. I have a tiny little list tiny list, which literally return Wolvie $5 was a note to tell me to talk about what we just talked about. So, and you see, we spent like
check,
30 seconds on it. So this is not a full length list, but I'm going in reverse order.
Okay.
I was paying some bills this week.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. One of the things that I occasionally do now is I go to, since we pay all of our bills online through our bank's bill payment service.
A lot of people do that.
The bill payment portal. Except for water, we have automatic payments because it's so cheap. We have to do it, like, I don't let automatic payments happen anywhere else because you never know when it's going to be a bad time for automatic payments to come out.
Some weeks where it's like, we're doing great, let's pay a bunch of bills, and some weeks where it's like, holy God, no bills this week.
Yeah.
Gonna have to wait another week.
So, I mean, it would be a delight, a joy to not have to do it the way I do it. But anyway.
It sounds like rich people problems.
I like to go down every client, I guess, payee, payor. We're the payee. They're the payor, right? We're paying them. We're the payee. No, payee is getting paid.
The payee is the recipient.
Okay. So I go through every company that we have in our bill payment portal and just double check activity and see when the last time we paid was. What was it? Because like ADT used to be quarterly. Now I think it's bumping to monthly. Mm-hmm. Little things like that. So I get to People's Gas, and we don't have a bill from them. Uh-huh. It's not time, and one of the reasons I like to do this is I like to figure out when bills are coming due, and it's more often than not I'll pay a round of bills, be satisfied with it, and then the mail comes that day and there's 3 more. So I like to do this occasionally to get a heads up, like, all right, well, when did I pay this bill last month? When can I expect the next bill? And there were several bills this week. I'm like, oh, I would be paying these next week. Let me do them now, kind of thing, So doing things like that. So we get to People's Gas, and I haven't paid a People's Gas bill since July. And I think, that's weird.
It's unusual.
Like, it occasionally, because we have 2 accounts with everybody, it has happened in the past 7+ years where I double up on one. One for residential versus commercial.
Sure.
That does happen. And so then sometimes there's a massive catch-up bill when it's...
Yeah, I remember there being one where, like, the Comcast residential bill got corporate money.
Yeah.
And the corporate bill got residential money.
Because the corporate bills are always way more.
One of them was like, oh, we didn't pay enough to close out this bill. And the other one was like, you have a 2-month credit.
Yeah.
Now for this, that you don't have to pay for 2 months.
I mean, that's not common, but it happens every once in a while. So I thought maybe that's the case. So I decide, I'm like, well, I'm going to find out what we owe. So I call People's Gas, and it's annoying because a lot of utilities companies now just run your phone number and say, oh, are you calling about this account? Mm-hmm. Well, for some reason, the store phone number matches the residential account.
Oh, interesting.
So I have to keep saying, no, and then, like, finally I get to somebody. I won't go through the detail of how many times I had to call back.
Twice.
Because it didn't understand. So basically I said, hey, and she couldn't find the account for a while. Then she found it and said, you don't owe anything, and that's final. And I said, why did you say final? And she said, that's your final balance. And I said, when you say final balance, do you mean current balance? And she said, no, this account is closed.
It's what now?
And I said, this account should not be closed. Can you tell me why it's closed? And so this is, and I'm sparing you all the hold I'm being put on.
I imagine. And
we don't have, I can't turn off call waiting with, now that we have AT&T.
Yeah.
So there were some calls that I did. There was one call that came through I didn't get to, which I don't know who it was.
Sorry, Tom King.
Because at the point that happens, it doesn't save that number in the caller ID log because you're still on a call.
Right.
So she said that not only did somebody else request service from your address, this is the second time. It happened in June and then again in July. So, can you tell me what that means?
No.
The people in the condos upstairs
Uh-huh.
keep using the 1845 Northwestern address. Their address is 1840 North Winnebago.
Yes.
They don't use that, so every time somebody
In the building needs service, they're overriding us.
Yes.
They're like a new tenant.
So, specifically, like the 2R came into play this time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when she went back and found out that it happened twice. So, long story short, they have to open a case, explain it to whomever. It'll take about a month
Okay.
for it to switch over.
Do we have heat?
Don't know.
Because I mean, it's starting to get to that season.
I mean,
where
you
we
had the
might
heat
need to
on.
turn
You had
it
the heat on last week, and there was heat.
Yeah. Okay.
And this apparently happened back in July.
Okay.
So I don't. I mean, it's still connected. I think it's just not being billed to anybody or whatever.
Okay.
But the moral is, when they do fix it, we'll get like a 3-month bill.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, that is a ridiculous situation that neither of us could have predicted happened.
No.
Ultimately, there'd be a point where if I hadn't just randomly checked,
Right.
it's deeper into winter, and we have no heat.
Yeah. Which I mean,
And then-
we just had a summertime stretch of days with no air conditioning, so
Right.
why not that
but
too?
but if there's no heat, we'd call the building.
Yeah.
They'd send somebody out and say it's fine, and then it would be like, oh no, it's a gas issue.
Yeah.
So it's not solved yet, but
At least we're aware that there's a problem.
crisis is being handled because of my insane level of worrying about the bills.
Sure.
It's not an insane
I
level.
would say
but,
attention to detail.
Well, there you go.
Leave it at that.
Yeah, what a ridiculous thing to
So dumb.
to find out.
So dumb.
I can't believe that yeah, and I'm the poor woman from the gas company got a small rant to me going, why are they doing that? That's not their that's not their address.
Yeah.
They live in Winnebago. And it's a stupid triangular building, and if you consider Winnebago the front of the building for the residential, it makes sense that they would call Western the rear of the building, because there is no rear because it's a triangle. And the alley, which is technically the rear, doesn't have access to retail.
I wonder if whose fault it is. If it's the people in the building, or if it's someone at People's Gas who's misunderstood what the address for the building is. Because even the U.S. Postal Service gets confused about what mail goes where and what's a business and what's the residence. And
They
all
get
that.
confused by that because a lot of the residents also use the Western Avenue address.
Which mailbox isn't even on that side of the street, so
Right.
not a smart move.
We petitioned years ago to have our address changed from 1845 to something else, 1847, 1849,
Right.
one of those two, just to differentiate it from everything else. But nope,
Yeah.
didn't happen. You can't, as was described to me then, it's impossible to do that because all of the existing addresses in Chicago are in a database. You can't just make one up. The post office will just assume it doesn't, like, there's nothing there.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if you paint 1847 in large letters on your building, it's not in their system.
Okay.
So it can't exist. But this all goes back to the original owner of the building who assigned us that designation.
Okay.
Like, if we were just like Suite 3 or something like that, that would have solved all of this. But no, it was, you remember, we mentioned this before years ago, but in our lease, we were 1845 Northwestern Avenue, 2R. That's what it was. Mm-hmm. After we set up all of our accounts with all of our vendors and had business cards printed and all this, the building owner came to us and said, you can pick whatever you want to be your suite number. Like, no, we didn't know that.
Yeah,
everything said 2R,
never told
so
us we could do that.
took 2R. Yeah, so we were not in a position to change anything at that point, because that's annoying.
Yep.
All right, Dal, now that I told that little anecdotal story, we're going to move on to something that you had brought up. Well, I brought up first, and then you pitched it with a very specific question, and then you said, I'm not going to ask this on the podcast, and I thought, we are. And in fact, I wanted to make that...
Oh, okay. I know which one this is now.
Hold on, I can't make my snapping noise right. Oh, I thought you were going to do it for me. There we go. Ah, come on. Mine sounds like a slab of wet meat hitting a table. Anyway.
I got bone in your hands.
There was a comic creator, and I use that term loosely, this week who pled guilty to distributing child pornography. And honestly, I saw an article about it online, but it didn't mention his name, so I had to read the article. And the article didn't mention the books he did, so I had to look him up. And I don't know if it's worth mentioning his name or his book at this point.
Most people wouldn't know it.
Right. It's not a book we carried, which leads into our discussion topic, but I found it because a fellow retailer had posted about it and said, should we stop carrying this person's books? And I saw immediately, yeah, of course you should. And then when I was talking about it to you and explained who it was, and you said, who? And I said, this property, this book. And you said, what? But then we dug a little bit deeper, and I'm changing your example.
Okay.
But, so then you posed the question, you said, look, it's easy to have the moral high ground when it's a book you don't carry for a creator that nobody knows. But what if...
Yeah, like basically... The book in question was published by, I think, like Action Lab or something?
No, that's what I thought it was. In fact, it was Blue Juice.
Yeah, Blue Juice, a company that I had... Honestly, before you said that, I would have said that you made that company name up.
I thought that was what Blue Water turned into.
So...
Because Blue Water previously published this book, but in fact, Blue Water became Stormfront Media and then Stormfront Entertainment.
So,
yes, I looked all that up for this particular story.
Deciding not to carry this creator's books costs us nothing. It's a stand that has no financial consequences for us.
So then Dale said, and before we ask, I want to point out that this is 1,000% hypothetical. This person that we're going to use in this example has never done anything like this that we're aware of and has nothing but a sterling reputation.
No.
We're only using this for discussion. What if we found out Brian K. Vaughan did this?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be this crime specifically, but something at that caliber.
Yes.
Where suddenly this creator is someone who is like unimaginably toxic.
Like, pled guilty, yes, I've been doing this. Yeah. I mean, let's say, like you could say Gerard Jones level of offense.
Yes, which basically was the same thing this other guy got.
So you said to me, would we still pull the books? And I said, yes.
You did not immediatly say yes.
Let me hear your recollection.
Here is the noise you made. Because we were talking about this other creator, and I'm like, would you pull him if we had him? And you're like, yeah. And so I'm like, well, what if it was... And I named a prominent creator. I didn't say Brian K. Vaughan. I said
who is a friend, a strong acquaintance of mine.
I thought I said like Tom King.
You didn't.
Who did I say?
Jason Aaron.
Oh, Jason Aaron. Okay, yeah. Okay, I said Jason Aaron. And you immediately went, like suddenly it was a hard question.
No, because it was sinking in like shit. Like the scope, like I narrowed it to Brian K. Vaughan for a different reason. Because he is our biggest book.
Sure.
Like, Jason Aaron has a lot of other things. Mm-hmm. So the was like, in my head, going over how many different things that we'd have to pull.
Okay. It sounded like it was more of a difficult equation.
How long did it take me to say yes?
I don't remember you actually saying.
I absolutely said yes, because you made it sound like you wouldn't. And I'm like, holy shit. In my head...
Like, I'm saying at that point... And this is, and I didn't immediately say yes or no, but it dovetailed into a larger thing of this being...
This is so weird, because we each have a different memory of, like, you thought I didn't say yes, I thought you didn't say yes.
Because it was, to me it was an interesting question to pose, because I see this happen a lot with people and their favorite creators, basically. Like, it's very easy if you say, don't give a shit about Woody Allen to go, I would never see a Woody Allen film again. Like,
Right.
I think he's a terrible human being and he's done objectionable stuff, and I don't want to support that. However, if, like, your favorite director of all time is Woody Allen, then suddenly learning things about him that you find objectionable starts to get this little internal calculus of, like, well, who said it, and why did they say it, and do I believe it, and if I do believe it, when did it happen, and under what circumstances, and what are the mitigating things that maybe I can do in my head to say this is okay, that I can still enjoy his art that I've enjoyed for years, if not decades, while still being able to think of myself as a moral and ethical person. And the more you care about that person's art, the harder it is to say, absolutely not, I would never X, Y, and Z. Like, and I see people do that online. It's the classic, like, Will Wheaton is very, like, Me Too, and you have to believe women, and Chris Hardwick did what? I don't know if I can talk about this right now. I gotta really think about what's going on. Like, oh, cool, so you'll like basically support any woman until suddenly it's like one of your best friends and employers, and then it's like, well, there's two sides to every, like, man,
the difference for me to what you were saying would be less of, but I love their work, more of, but they're my friend.
Sure.
That's the heavier distinction, I think.
So in this case, let's say Brian K. Vaughan, who neither of us knows personally.
There's two ways to think about the, like, okay, first of all, again, this is hypothetical.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry,
assuming,
BKV. You're just our most popular and financially successful creator.
That's why we're using you. So yes. I'm going to assume, were this to happen in the real world, he would be done. Nobody would be, like, Image would say, hey, we're not publishing your books, we're not doing Saga, it's over.
Yeah, I gotta imagine, pretty much, like, with this crime specifically that we're talking about, anything involving kids, like, man, that's it. Like, you're definitely doing jail time. And your books may as well not exist anymore.
We're giving ourselves an out by that, making it that easy. So, first of all, we're assuming he's not going to have a career anymore. But what if it's not that? What if it's...
And the other thing to consider is that not everybody who comes in knows the story behind every creator.
Yeah.
Like, people who are reading Saga might not follow the news about BKV, so they would they'd expect the next volume of Saga to come out, or maybe they're 5 or 6 volumes back. Like, they've just read volume 3 when this happened.
So, BKV is convicted.
I feel so bad that we're using
But I'd feel bad using anybody, but I wanted the stakes to be high.
Yeah, you have to use a real person in this hypothetical to make it land. You can't just say, like, Creator X. Like, so what does that mean?
BKV is done. Saga is over. Mm-hmm. We pull everything off the shelf and stop selling those books. Mm-hmm. Done deal.
Right. But what if he's not done?
But, like, right.
Yeah.
Right.
What if this is just a thing where,
well, we're talking about this because of what happened to a specific creator.
Right.
But, ironically, we can parallel this with the current Supreme Court Justice nomination, where it's a case of an accusation and a denial. So what if BKV is accused of this type of behavior?
And I mean, you could even escalate it to Louis C.K. He did it. He admitted to it. And then a year later, we're all supposed to pretend it didn't happen, or it's all fine now? Like, this is someone who's still going to want to make art, who's still going to want to entertain people or earn a living.
So we're saying that Brian K. Vaughan admitted it, hypothetically, this thing that he did not do in real life.
I guess you could look at it either way, because on the one end, the one that you described, that sort of stuff, I can name creators in comics now who have allegations against them.
Sure.
And I think we're still carrying their books. I mean, they're not necessarily people who are huge names, but maybe there are huge names that we are carrying, and I don't know.
Well, if this is, let's say it's the Louis C.K. thing, but for BKV, I mean, it's such a ridiculous conversation. Yeah, right? Even though he's our number one seller, we can't carry his books.
Okay.
We can't.
Okay.
Your thoughts?
Gosh.
See, you can't use Louis C.K. in this because you don't care about Louis C.K. or comedy. It's not like you lost a thing you liked.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't dislike Louis C.K.'s
right,
acts
but you
and
never
stuff.
engaged with it.
But
You
I
never watched his show. You never
No.
saw his stand-up.
No.
Like, all right, let me.
Liked him on Parks and Rec, but I mean, him being excised from the world of entertainment was not a thing where I'm like, all the good art I won't get. Like, I didn't think that at all. It was just like, wow, that sounds like a terrible thing for a human being to do to another human being. The stuff that he did to comedians who looked up to him and respected him, like, boy, that seems like a really horrible thing to do continuously over years.
And honestly, any of this is easy to say, oh, we wouldn't carry his books, but who knows if we'd actually go through with it?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, it's very easy to do it when it's something that you have no skin in the game, essentially. But when suddenly it's Saga's going to keep coming out.
I really don't think you should say skin in the game when we're talking about what
Patrick.
Louis C.K. did.
Oh, Patrick.
I wasn't trying to make a joke.
So, I mean, assuming in this scenario that Fiona Staples is like, I stand by BKV. Phonographics is like, I don't believe the allegations. We're going to keep making Saga. It's going to keep coming out. Image is like, shoulder shrug of like, we're going to give it a go. I mean, it's very easy to say when the book would cease coming out that, like, we are going to stop carrying it. Well, no shit. Like, how many books continue to sell after they've stopped coming out? I'm not saying Saga in its current form would not be a book we would sell forever, but it would be a thing where we're not losing a whole lot. But if we were to take the, $300 or whatever we make a month selling Saga comics, is that something? Do we want to give that up? And that's just the comic books. That's not new trade volumes are going to come out. New hardcovers are going to come out. The way we've done it with other creators who have done stuff that we are morally opposed to is we will stock a book on a pre-order basis. If someone comes to us and says, I want this horrible person's new comic book, we'll order it for them, but then we will not stock it for the shelf. And in some cases, we will make a donation to a charity that pretty much opposes what that person stands for, as a way of trying to balance the cosmic scales. I don't know if that would be what we would do with the BKV, or if we would just say, I'm sorry, I can't take that order. I don't know.
Well, from here, I would say we can't take that order.
Okay.
It just wouldn't feel right.
Sure. And like a lot of decisions we make, it usually comes down to who cares about it more.
Yeah.
And if I'm on the fence about it, and you're like, I would not feel good doing this, then we don't do it.
Yeah, but I don't feel like you're taking a stand right now. You're not saying either way.
Well, I'm saying it's a complicated situation, and
It's a complicated hypothetical situation.
But if you're treating the hypothetical seriously, like, I think it's a knee-jerk thing for people to kind of make them feel good about themselves by saying, I absolutely wouldn't do something. And I'm trying to be honest and go, I don't know. Like, the more financially I'm being punished for making this moral decision, the harder it is to make that decision. And I think it's okay to have that discussion in regards to ethics than to just take some sort of, social media moral high ground and go, I would absolutely whatever. Like, let's be honest here. And in general, in life, we live in a capitalist society in America. It's more than religion or form of government or whatever. It's the overriding act of living as an American is living in a capitalist culture. And that means, in general, somehow supporting something that you disagree with. Anywhere from, boy, I wish they wouldn't do that, to, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. And we're doing it day by day, whether we know it or not. So it's okay to even internally grapple with the idea of, how badly would I feel profiting off of this? Or conversely, how much better would I feel if I stopped profiting off of this?
It always reminds me when people say to somebody who's doing something that they oppose, like, how can you sleep at night? Mm-hmm. I'm sure they sleep very well.
And again, it's kind of up to the individual. Like, that's one of the benefits of living in a society where we still have some narrow form of personal freedom, is being able to say, what is the thing I have to do to get through the day? Like, what is the decision I have to make to allow me to sleep at night, basically? And I am conflicted about it. And certainly I would, even though I may land on the side of this person is a terrible human being and I cannot support their earning a living through this medium, therefore I can't carry their books. There might be a part of me that's like, God damn, but I'm going to take a hit for doing that. And I don't know that, beyond feeling better about myself, I don't know that anything is going to make up for the money I'm losing.
No, I do.
And
I
we're
do
not,
know that.
It's not like we would go out of business if we stopped carrying, a certain creator's books. There's no one creator that we carry, even Brian K. Vaughan, where we would go out of business not having them. But there are creators that we would genuinely feel a specific financial loss in our business that then translates to a financial loss for our personal livelihood. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but we're also spending that much less because we're not buying those books anymore.
Yeah, but we're making less profits, so
Sure.
it's more of a loss than it is any sort of gain. Yeah, I don't mind talking about it, and it's weird to me.
Well, when you brought it up,
Did
you have...
No, I didn't have an answer. And it's so weird that in these situations, there's an expectation of having an immediate, correct, ethical, moral answer, where it's like, these are
the expectation was on my
questions.
part because you brought it up, and usually you have...
Oh, no, but the question was just to see, again, it's easy to say, this thing that cost me no money, I'm not going to do. Well, no shit. You're not losing anything for it, so it's like me saying, oh, I heard, Anheuser-Busch did this terrible thing. Well, I'm boycotting their beer. Well, I don't drink beer, so what am I boycotting? Who cares? It's not a stand. It doesn't mean anything. But if it was suddenly oh, I heard Chipotle killed a school bus full of kids. The whole company got together and did it. And it's well, goddamn, I go to Chipotle a lot. I don't like the fact that they killed a bus full of kids. That sounds really terrible. I don't... But I like chicken quesadillas. And it, does the child murder offset the quesadillas? How... What... I mean... So, yeah, it...
Does the child murder offset the quesadillas?
Yeah, quesadillas are real good. I get it a couple
Question
times
for
a
the
week.
ages.
There are a lot of children in the world. I'm just saying.
What
I
if
don't
you
know,
find
man.
out that they make the quesadillas with children?
That's why I didn't want to create that sort of scenario, because absolutely not. No.
But you've tasted it. It's so good, Dal. You just said so.
What was the dish that was being served at the party in Venture Brothers? Orphan tartare or something like that? Extra virgin. Yeah, I just like the idea of... And it's... Some of it is the worst kind of bad faith bullshit internet argument is, I want to show that there is a sliding moral scale where any attempt to act ethically in a complicated world invariably will lead to hypocrisy. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you can't make a moral decision, or that there are not occasions where there are clearly good and bad decisions to be made. I'm bringing up the idea of, it's okay to grapple with these things. It's okay for it to be a difficult decision. It doesn't need to be I am a shining pillar of moral rectitude, lighting the way for every other right-thinking person. It's okay to say, well, I don't know what to do in this situation. Maybe I need to think about it and analyze it and talk it through and talk about it with other people. It doesn't make you a bad person to say, I don't know what I want to do here. That's okay.
Well, I think what would benefit us all is if BKV would just keep it in his pants.
Oh, he didn't do nothing wrong other than be popular enough for us to use as an example.
Let's hope we never have to find out.
Yeah. So anyway, in summation, my asking that question was mostly just because of how quickly you were like, oh, we'd absolutely pull it. And it's well, let's make this more complicated for Patrick then.
Well, I still came down on the side of pulling it.
Okay. Then I would agree with that. I would not veto that in any way.
It can get even more complicated, which I don't think either of us wants to talk about, if it's accusations and denials.
Right, and again, that's the bullshit internet thing of I'm taking a stand. Okay, well, let me pick away at all of the things that you do in your life that you're not taking a stand about to make sure that you're clear that taking any stand is a stupid idea because I disagree with it.
People showing pictures of them
internet.
burning New Balance shoes because they have a big N on them, so they thought that was Nike. or talking about how they'd rather wear Converse instead, which is owned by Nike. All of those things. But, you know, I know what you've been waiting for me to bring up, Dow, and I know that the listeners have expected us to lead with this topic. And goodness gracious, has it been a thing that I've tried to avoid talking about all weekend, but I can't because we've had, I think since Thursday, 100 people ask us if we have the comic that has Batman's penis.
And to which I say, which one?
Right?
They all have his penis in it. Just sometimes you can't see it. Yeah, so the joke that I had this week was...
Spoiler for Batman 55, FYI.
I mean, so there's two comics this week. There's Batman Damned, where you can see the Batman's penis. And then there's Batman 55, where Nightwing takes a bullet to the head from the KG Beast. To which I told Patrick, that makes two Batman comics this week with a dick shot.
I fully intended you to
tell my joke?
Yes. And so, obviously there have been a ton of comments on the internet. We'll talk about some of it, but what do you think is better? Batmanhood or Batawang?
I read one today that was the bat penis should be called Little Wayne.
I just thought it was Little Dick.
Little Wayne, like the performer.
I did. No, I get it. I get
performer, Patrick.
Thanks for explaining it, though.
Uh-huh.
I did to one person say Batman and his Dick Grayson.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't like it when people come into the store and say, "Do you have Batman Wang?"
Wow, did they really say that?
Yeah.
Wow, weird.
Yeah. Which Donovan thought was hilarious.
Really?
And I did not. Well, she liked the bluntness of, like, we talked about how people are dancing around it and pretending like they just want it for the artistic integrity.
Oh my god, anytime there's a hot book or like something that's a topic of discussion, you're going to get a certain customer who comes in where it's like, oh, was this in demand? Oh, I had no idea. I'm just an aficionado. Like, bullshit, you're here because of this stupid thing you saw on the news or on a website or on someone's late night talk show. That's it. That's the reason.
The guy was in today.
Oh, Seth Meyers.
Do you happen to have any copies of that the new Batman book? I'm like, Batman 55? Yeah, we have it. It's on the shelf. No, the adult line? I don't know what that is. You know, the new one, and look, I know he's absolutely trying to say Batman Damned, and I will only accept Batman Damned or Black Label.
Okay.
If you don't say either of those, I will pretend I don't know what you're talking about, which I did multiple times.
Just admit it. Admit that you want the comic with Batman's dick.
Also, if you don't even know what it is, why do you want it?
It's fine. It's fine
if
to
you
be
don't
excited
know it's
about
called
Batman's
Batman
dick.
Damned, why are you asking for it?
It is natural for people to be excited about Batman's dick. It's been almost 80 years, Patrick. They finally got the letters.
Yeah, but look, Batman's dick in Batman Damned only looks like what Lee Bermejo thinks. It's as different as Batman's face as drawn by anybody else.
You're correct. There's a lot of options for artists now that we've opened the door to seeing Batman's dick in a comic. And for the record, I'm not thinking that DC is necessarily going to repeat this experiment. I'm thinking that Marvel, being Marvel, will see this and, like, all of January will be, like, Marvel Dick Month, where, like, there's just going to be a superhero dick in every single Marvel comic book.
No, Dale, they're going to be match 2 variant covers.
Well, I don't think they can put it on the cover. That's a difficult thing. I think it has to be inside. But maybe it'll be like a fold-out poster or something that'll be in a certain printing that you get.
They're not just going to give it away. Come on. You totally derailed.
I'm sorry.
I don't remember where because I was leaving somewhere.
There were people that wanted the comic with Batman's dick in it, but you wouldn't.
So we have 76 people subscribed to Batman. Not our highest, not our lowest. Like, we've had less Batman subscribers, we've had more.
Sure.
And the people listening to this, it's a broken record to them, but so we have 76 people who are down for Batman. When Damned #1 hit the shelf, we had 25 people signed up for it.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong, every Batman subscriber got an email that said, hey, Batman Damned comic.
I think so, but I'd have to check to be sure.
You did.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
Also, every subscriber got an email months ago saying, hey, Batman Damned is coming out. Sure. It's a highlighted book for the month.
Plus, we had a thing on the front of the register telling people that Batman Damned was a book that was coming out.
Yeah, you know what? I will say that there was a club member in today who's like, "Can I sign up for it?" And he looked at the sheet. He's like, Green Lantern," and like he picked 3 books off of
People are looking
that.
at it.
So
Hooray.
it does work. It does work.
I
And
see
also,
people look at it and comment on it frequently, but very few people are like, "Oh, can I get that book that's on there?"
Also, you get an email every week that tells you what's in your box.
Yeah.
So it was a very small handful of club members who did I thought I was down for this.
Yep. Even though on Friday you got a thing saying Batman Damned is coming out, and here's your list of everything you're getting.
Yeah.
Which is the time that you would normally look at it and go, "Oh, I thought I was down for Batman Damned."
Yeah. I mean, it was like
Not 5 days later.
Yeah. Yeah.
After the book has come out, and suddenly it's a hot deal, and you're told that the second printing will be edited from the first printing. Suddenly that's when everyone decided they needed a copy of Batman Damned, when it's a collector's item.
Now, I didn't finish White Knight.
Okay.
Did you?
I did.
Okay.
You don't see his dick in there.
I didn't read the collection, but I had heard there was a nude Harley Quinn scene that they censored in the comic that they uncensored for the collection.
The collection hasn't come out yet. So I know there was... It's kind of gone back and forth, and I don't know where they've landed on it. Basically, there's going to be a soft cover coming out in like a few weeks, and then like a deluxe hardcover that's coming out. And I've heard the deluxe hardcover is the one that's likely to have the unedited sex scene. I don't think it's the soft cover collection that's coming out this year.
Okay.
But I could be wrong on that, and it could be neither of them is going to have anything unedited.
Because there's been a lot of talk about the second print, which DC has said...
It's only going to have the exact same story and no dick in it, so suddenly unacceptable to a lot of recent fans.
Right. What is your preference as a retailer? Censored or uncensored second print?
Uncensored.
Right.
Yeah.
Mine as well.
It's so weird to me that DC's doing this whole, I guess maybe appropriate for a Batman thing, clutching at pearls, as how shocked and dismayed they are that there's a Batman penis in this comic book that multiple people edited and commissioned and was released for mature readers. Like, man, come on. I don't know if this is supposed to be part of the game of making it a hot collector's item by, like, DC apologizing for it, and in the apology it might as well be like, "Oh gosh, everyone, we're so sorry that Batman Damned #1, available in stores now at retailers nationwide and digitally, had this thing in the first printing that in the print edition you can see Batman's penis that you've never seen before." Man, come on. I don't know who's upset at DC and why, when this is like a big deal news thing for them. Like, I own it. Say, yeah, we did this Batman comic for mature readers. It's $7. It's an art object. Yeah, it's got Batman's dick in it.
Well, in their statement, it doesn't add to the story in any way. Mm-hmm. Although other people have said, no, it shows his vulnerability.
Yeah, it shows that it's cold in the Batcave. That's pretty clear.
I mean, without getting too much detail, what did you say? Like, oh, so to the right.
Yeah. I mean, plus, circumcised? I mean, that's...
Yeah, that's not uncommon.
No, it's fairly common, and,
I do admit...
The Waynes were a medical sciences family, so it's not a huge surprise.
I do admit that the angle it's at was a little jarring. Like, he's not running. Why is it not...
Why is it flapping?
Why is it not straight down? It kind of... It doesn't hook, it's just...
And it's lit weird.
Like
in that,
30 degrees.
There's almost like a spotlight just on it.
Well, I mean,
not like the surrounding neighborhood.
It's really only like a sliver of light. You're just seeing the outline on one side. Uh-huh. Your mind fills in the rest.
Sure. I mean, it always has before, so why not?
Right. Why is it any different? Yeah. It's just like a male cosplayer who's not wearing the proper undergarments at a show.
So I read Batman Damned #1 Tuesday night, because we got it in Tuesday, and I read it Tuesday night. And overall, I didn't care for it much as a story, but I understand who it's for and whatever.
It's gorgeous.
Some people take Batman incredibly seriously, and this is the Batman comic for them. And it wasn't until Wednesday morning that all this news was hitting that, like, oh my god, Batman's dick is in a new comic book. And I'm like, was it? I don't remember seeing it. That I picked up a copy and I flipped through it and I'm like, oh yeah, here it is. My eye didn't go there when I read that page because it's, the bottom right-hand corner of Bruce Wayne walking nude.
Yeah, it's the bottom
Batcave.
right-hand corner of Bruce Wayne.
And I'm like, all right, I get it. He's moving through the Batcave. Like, I didn't think to look at the entire figure to see whether or not you could see his dick. And
I suppose the previous panel you didn't notice his entire naked butt.
No, you do. Obviously.
Not in shadow.
Yeah, and it looked like a pretty well-toned butt. I mean, it seemed like a dude who does a lot of exercises to make his butt look good. And it's...
A lot of spot thrusts.
I think Ben established that the Batman has a decent butt. I think that's kind of common knowledge. I know the cape covers it a lot, but he's jumping a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never heard a bad thing about it. So yeah, it felt so inconsequential to me. No offense, Bruce. The idea that not only would it be in demand, that I kind of understood. Like there's people who are like, oh my god, there's a comic with Batman's dick in it. I gotta get this. Like even people who don't give a shit about Batman comics are gonna want the comic with Batman's dick in it. But the idea that DC would apologize for it and like remove it from future printings.
I never saw an apology. Did they apologize?
I don't know. They probably did.
I never saw an apology.
Well, either way, the idea of saying like it doesn't add to the story, so we're going to edit it out, feels like a kind of apology. We did something wrong, so we're going to fix it moving forward. Like I don't think you did anything wrong. I don't care. I think it's kind of dumb. But the idea that this needs to be like erased from existence and a mistake that should never be repeated, like. It's just, who cares? You didn't do it in, like, Teen Titans Go. Like, that would be a huge problem.
Right. Yes.
You did it in a mature reader's Batman book. You know how many mature readers' books where, like, seeing Batman's dick would be, like, the 18th least objectionable thing in the book?
I mean, we've seen Dr. Manhattan's penis many times in Watchmen.
Yeah.
You saw Jim Gordon's in Killing Joke.
Yeah. I don't know, it just seems weird.
There's precedent.
It seems weird for it to be something DC has to fix. Like, I don't understand why that would be. But I assume retailers are unhappy about a corrected second printing?
I did have a customer in today who said, like, so when are we going to see Superman's dick? I mean Wonder Woman. And I said, Wonder Woman's dick? All right.
Do you remember when X-Men Gold, I think it was X-Men Gold #1, where Marvel inadvertently committed a hate crime?
Mm-hmm.
And they released a second printing that corrected all that and removed it, I think. And strangely, no one cared about the second print of... No, they didn't care about the second printing of X-Men Gold #1. Yeah. So, we would restock Batman Damned #1 because it's the first issue of a prestige 3-issue miniseries, and we'd like to have copies of issue 1 and when issues 2 and 3 come out. But, I mean, the demand of the one with Batman's dick in it or... the new Brian Azzarello Lee Bermejo Batman thing, those are two different numbers.
Right. So, what do we order for #2?
Oh, God. I would order around what we ordered for #1. I don't assume that every copy we sold was because Batman's dick is in it.
Right.
And we definitely had some people who added the series.
Yeah.
And I don't think they assume that every issue is going to have Batman's dick in it. Although at this point, who knows?
No matter what, we need to vastly up our variant cover numbers.
I don't get it. You said it right away. Like, if you're buying this book whose main reason for existing is Lee Bermejo's art, why would you buy the cover that Lee Bermejo didn't do?
Why would you buy the Jim Lee cover?
Yeah, so weird.
Yeah.
But all right, whatever.
As we saw, most everybody who bought the Jim Lee cover also bought the Bermejo cover.
That's true.
Only one person bought just Jim Lee.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, I mean, obviously it's how many more could we have sold? But... again, that's like, what if President Obama was in it? It's not an indication of the quality of the book.
Yeah, how many copies of Amazing Spider-Man 584 did we sell? Can we check those numbers?
Well, DC had even said, and I think I talked about this a few weeks ago, expect there to be a lot of press about Batman 55, something big happens.
Too late.
Nope.
Yep.
No one cared. No one cared about Nightwing.
Ben Percy probably cared. Probably quit the book.
Did he quit it?
He left Nightwing with a very vague, I wish I could have stuck around, I've got to leave. And reading between the lines, it's a very, DC handed him a story he didn't want to tell, so he quit the book.
Okay. I mean...
is how I read it.
Don't expect to get more work from DC, Ben Percy. I mean, from anybody, really. I don't know that that's a bad thing of him leaving that book.
I don't read Nightwing, so I don't really care.
Right. You know why? Because Ben Percy writes it.
Well, Scott Lobdell's writing the new one. Excited about that?
No, I'm not. I'm real not. No, definitely not. So, I mean, the reason I was asking what to order for number 2 is because that's on you.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it. I mean,
is it though?
Yeah. And
did I already order it? Yeah.
It's the next
issue. Well, it's
issue.
short in 2 months.
Yeah, next issue shipping in November.
Okay.
You just ordered it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
technically that order hasn't gone in yet, so we can alter it.
That's true. Some of this depends on when the second printing comes out, and when the FOCs close on 2, and if we can sell more copies of 1 before 2 comes out. My gut right now is just to kind of copy our issue 1 numbers to issue 2 and maybe do a few more variants, and then see how it goes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Even without the Batman Dick in it, I assumed we would sell out by Sunday anyway. Like, when we looked at our numbers a few days before the book actually was in our hands, we didn't think we had enough. And that was before you could see Batman's Dick.
Right.
So maybe I would just go up from 1 anyway.
But it's just so weird to try. I mean, it just shows you how hard the ordering system is, because the numbers that we ordered, both you and I agreed on months ago when they went in.
Sure. Well, how many people were adding it the day of, or how many people were adding it
and
the night before, or 2 days later?
That makes it impossible to predict.
Sure.
We have to fortune tell every single month.
Yeah.
And we do so much to try to help to spread that out. How many people have added Heroes in Crisis just this week?
I think one of my favorite ones was we send out an email to all of our subscribers, not even to our subscribers, to everyone on our mailing list on Thursday.
Yeah.
Saying, here's the books that are coming out next week, as well as any events and anything you need to know. And then on Friday, subscribers get their own personalized email that is specifically the books that they're receiving the next week. And I don't blame people for this necessarily, but it's always a little irritating when someone responds to the Thursday one with I want to make sure I'm getting this. Like, wait 12 hours. In 12 hours, you'll know whether or not you're down for it, and then you can tell me if you want it or not. Thursday night, it's just making me check and go, yeah, you're already down for it, but you'd know that in the morning anyway.
Or the number of times you have to respond, please tell me your name.
Yeah. Just in general with subscription stuff, it seems like the only 2 options we have for collecting orders from people is either too early. I just read about the thing that was announced in Hollywood Reporter or on CBR that orders don't open for another 2 weeks.
2 people asked to sign up for 3 Jokers today.
And then, or too late, where it's, hey, this book that came out last week, can I get that? You can't. We're already sold out of it. Like, this doesn't help me at all. Neither of these 2 scenarios help me in any way.
It's feast or famine. It's like the people that email with questions email a lot, and then other people just never do it at all. There's people who, hey, can I get this book? And then they come in and buy it, and then the next day, oh, can I get this series that's on issue like 11, and I need everything that already came out. Why did you just think of this today? You were here yesterday. What? I mean, sure, we'll try, but it's so weird. I mean, the days of individual customers filling out preview orders and turning them in, those are long gone. Not long gone.
Less stuff came out then.
Yeah,
I don't think I could ever go back to the print order form sort of thing, because it's like in a given month there's 70 to 100 things that I need to tell people about.
I had an employee today go through previews and add a title for subscription that I didn't even order.
Yeah.
For the store.
Uh-oh.
I'm like, oh. I mean, the order hasn't gone in
Right.
yet, but it's still like, oh, well, this maybe we should reevaluate this. I admit I looked at it and said, that's kind of neat, but then, I mean, I don't think I ordered. I think I passed on it.
Okay.
It's too hard to take chances on things.
Yeah, there was a series we just got in recently that I thought was okay. Nothing I would necessarily like go out of my way to recommend to people, but I thought there'd be an audience for it. We got 6 copies in of Welcome to Wonderland #1 from Boom.
Yeah.
We've sold 0 copies.
Yep.
So issue 2 we're ordering 0 copies. Because we've had... When did it come in? It was...
2-3 weeks?
It was a week ago Wednesday, which means we've had 10, 11 days to sell it, and we've sold 0 copies. And that's when 90% of our sales usually happen, is within the first, 2 weeks. So if we've sold 0 copies, I would order 0 copies #2, which is
and it currently has 2 spots on the shelf now.
Does it? Okay.
Look at Bully Wars, Scotty Young's book from Image.
Yeah.
We sold 2 copies over 3 covers.
Yep. Over multiple weeks.
Yeah, that's a book that we ordered way too many of.
Yeah. So, I mean, on the one hand, I want to take a chance on issue 1s because you want to find your ceiling, but it seems like more often we're finding our floor, you know? Mm-hmm. Or we're finding the floor and the ceiling are the exact same place.
Well, I'll tell you what, the immediately low numbers of Bully Wars definitely influenced my ordering of Middle West, number 1. And I know that they're totally different subject matters, but it's hard to take chances.
There's a lot of new series coming out, and as with a lot of these things, if the market were bigger, if more people were coming into comic shops, this would make sense. But there's not enough people coming into comic shops to support all these different series. And there hasn't been for a while. Like, the industry's growing, and we've seen new people coming in, and that's great. But, man, most of those people are just buying Saga and Fantastic Four and Amazing Spider-Man and
we had a couple
Batman.
Come in today who live just on the block, never saw us before, could not believe we've been here for 10.5 years, wanted to know, well, that sign's new, right? No. Those banners? No, those have been up for 10 years.
At least once a week I have that happen. At least once a week. So, I've been meaning to come in here for a while, I never have. Or, do you guys just open recently, right?
They just couldn't believe we were there that long, couldn't believe they never came in the store, amazed, bought nothing.
Yep. I've had that happen too.
Yep.
Usually it'll be with I gotta come back here, or I gotta tell my boyfriend about this place, or whatever. Like
one of the Batman Damned people today, and again it was somebody who wouldn't outright ask for Batman Damned, then said, "Oh, I usually come in every single Wednesday, but I just missed this one," and I'm looking at you going, "Who are you, man?
Yeah, right.
I don't recognize you." Which does not mean he doesn't come in every Wednesday.
It's true.
It just means I didn't recognize him. Yeah. So the last thing I have with me, it's not even on my list, and I realize this is audio and oral, but with the AU. So I can't do show and tell, but I can do tell and tell. And one of the Marvel True Believers #1s that came out this week, which is their dollar line, it is... They don't tell you what issue number it is. It just says, Marvel Knights Power Man takes on the martial arts might of Iron Fist. It's Power Man number 48.
So it was like the first time he met Iron Fist in a
yes.
comic book?
And I bought this book. This book came out in December of 1977.
Okay.
This book is written by Chris Claremont and drawn by John Byrne.
Sure.
I loved this comic so much when it came out.
Who's the cover? Is that Gil Kane?
That is Gil Kane, yeah. A week later, the very first Claremont and Byrne X-Men came out.
Oh, nice.
With a cover by Dave Cockrum. But, I mean, man, yeah, there's a lot of dialogue, it's true, but there's...
You said Chris Claremont wrote it, so...
Yeah. There's a great fight scene between Luke and Colleen Wing, and then Luke and Misty Knight, and then this great coming out of the shadows... behind Luke Cage, Iron Fist, with the fist glowing, and then a full page spread of Luke Cage being shattered through a building, right? And then shoots across the street into another building that collapses on him.
Yeah, and there's like a third panel in between there of like 2 dudes like witnessing this and just being shocked by what's happening.
Yeah, they were Shades... As you know from the Luke Cage series.
TVs.
He's wearing shades. And Comanche.
Okay.
They're the reason Luke Cage was there. But yeah, this was amazing. To me as a kid, I loved it. And I think... I know I drew this panel, but I may have drawn all over it.
Sure.
I mean...
When did this book come out?
1977.
When in 77 did you say?
December.
So you would say for Power Man it was not a very sweet Christmas?
Nice.
Hey, jokes.
Nice. I forgot what this was, and I was looking at the shelves. I'm like, wait a minute, is that? So that's why I have it. And I also took one to my dad who's in the hospital right now, and I gave him a stack of True Believers, which he's not going to give a shit about. But they're there.
Well, he can learn to like Alias.
Look at this. Yeah, I gave him Alias. Yeah, and Daredevil and Six Gun. This art is amazing. This book, holy cow! Everyone should buy this book.
Well, not everyone can, but a few people definitely can.
You got some bad moves, ballet britches, but kung fu kicks and a flaming fist won't stop me from bringing this building down on your head. That's the dialogue from the cover.
That was what Luke Cage was saying?
Yes. Well, to ballet britches himself, the Iron Fist. Yeah. Oh, loved it. Loved it so much.
Quality book. Only $1. That's nuts.
That's nuts. It was 35 cents when it came out.
Okay.
So you're paying an extra 65 cents
Comics
now.
cost too much. I don't understand why they cost so much. They should cost less.
And of course, I
Give
bought
me
2
12
of them.
copies.
I bought 2 of them, so it makes sense. Hey, way to take it full circle.
I did that.
Yay! Thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.